and action. All right, so here we are again inside of another Paradigm Shift London meeting. Say hello to the Internet's Paradigm Shift London. Woo, Internet's, woo! They're so excited to see you again. So today's question inside of our open-minded discussion meditation group, we've been talking for about the last 90 minutes, 2 hours, and now we're reflecting on some of our conversation topics. And of course, we want people to start a Paradigm Shift community where they are, and you can do all that through the main website, paradigmshiftcentral.com. But today's question that we're going to ask is the question of, what does ego mean to you? So, of course, this is a very broad and open-ended question, and we'll be sure to get some very interesting responses. And Cameron's going to start us off. So, Cameron, what does ego mean to you?
Ego is just another character in the saga used to explain the big play that's going on in our heads.
Nice, okay. Did you guys, Colleen, do you have something?
To me, ego is something you carry with you throughout your lifetimes, and it is something that you have to work to clear, I guess. I don't really know how to say it right now, but
Cool.
Hi. I think ego could be more in the category of pride, and there's big egos and small egos, and ego can be dangerous because it can reflect in having power and feeding it all the time, and then you end up putting yourself before others. That's all I have to say.
Nice, thank you. Haley.
I think that ego is mainly something, again, I agree with the pride thing. I think that is something that is bred by the society that we live in currently, or the lifestyle that we have, where everything that we do is very based on keeping our pride and keeping our dignity and, like, you know, being like, we're as good as our neighbors over there, right? So it's like, I feel like it's very much a bred thing that is sometimes misinterpreted. I think that some people think that ego is having self-importance, and I think that self-importance is like not a bad thing as long as you're not overly, like, you don't have too much importance on yourself. But I feel like I'm getting a little off track.
He's a video editor.
Yeah, thank God. Okay, and I feel like there is a constant need to keep our ego in check. So that we don't, I don't know, I'm having a really hard time with this.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it short. Okay, so I think that ego can be very negative if we allow ourselves to become driven by it. If we allow it to become the waking force for everything that we do, is like, I have to get that positive reaffirmation for my dignity or my pride or whatever, for my identity, because it helps feed me. But I think that ego is a pretty natural thing that we all have, and we can learn to control, in a sense of, like, we might still be hurt by something, but we could choose to respond to it without ego or without pride. Even though our ego still hurts, we're not controlled by our ego. So the ego is something that society gives us, and is ultimately something that challenges us throughout our lives to overcome our own desires for the greater good and the greater consciousness, basically. So
Cool.
that's all over the
Well
place.
said. That was good. Got the gist of
Basically
it.
what I was going to say, it's like my ego is my biggest challenge is to unblock the divine connection that I have with the universe. And it's the thing that gets in my way when I'm trying to speak from my heart or use my intuition. It's my ego that's saying, how do I look? Or, like, how do I sound? That's why I can't make videos of myself, because I'm looking at myself the whole time. But if I'm in an in-depth conversation and I'm speaking from wisdom and from intuition, then that's when my ego isn't there. And I'm not thinking about myself, and I'm not thinking, this is Anna saying this. It's like, I'm just saying a truth. And if that resonates with you, then I'm grateful that I've been able to emanate and share that with my community.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on this one.
All right, cool, man. Jesse?
I think that ego is just the brain. Like, your brain is a machine, and we're all given one. If you operate with the assumption that your consciousness is somehow separate from your brain, then you can say every time you want something, it's like that animal seeking out that thing that will fulfill, like, a physical need. But we don't always need it now because of the way society's been built. You know, we have food on the tables and a job to go to or whatever. So identifying, like, where wants come from is a good way to, like, kind of track down ego.
Cool. Thanks. Matt?
I think ego is the false self. So it is the story we tell ourselves about reality, and then the behaviors and the attitudes that we project to try to control that false illusion of reality.
Nice. Cool. Do you want to say something? Okay, pass. Lee?
Ego is a belief system, and it really does want it to survive, and it makes itself important. It's driven by rebellion and fear of not existing, of not having a brain impulse, because you want to identify it, label it, control it, manipulate it, even though the brain is just the mainframe for everything that's going on. If you want to attach to something, that's the ego. You have your body consciousness, and then you have the consciousness of that. The process is the subconscious. So it's a paradox to figure out. Do your best.
Do your best. That's what we're doing. Good stuff.
I will define ego as your kind of your deep personality and the way you project yourself in this world, you know, the way you're going to act to survive, and it's very different from being egoistical, you know, which are two words, you know, and ego is not especially linked to pride, or it's just something very natural to human being, and it's something really centered. And then when you realize your ego, then you can open your personality to the world, you know.
Cool. Nice. Thank you. Sir?
I feel like the ego is a very selfish kind of thing, where it's the I or the me, where someone will have a problem and they'll take it out on you, and they'll be hostile towards you, and you take it personally. I feel like it's the ego that makes you take it personally, when it really has nothing to do with you. It's how they're projecting their own problems onto you, using their own ego and putting you down to make themselves try and feel better, doing the same thing. I feel like your ego is just what makes you believe that everything is about you.
Nice. Cool. Brock?
Yes, the ego to myself is something that's based on our preconceptions of who we are, what our self-image is, what our self-awareness is of who we were, who we grew up as, what we did, what we hold on to materialistically. I see our ego as something that we try to just hold on to this moment, that try to make it more special than what it really maybe is, but just because on some level we want to feel that we are special. I think it's that thing that makes us feel empowered independently. That's why I don't think it's anything evil that we should be completely self-ridding like ourselves of. It's something to hold in balance and kind of work with. I guess it's so hard to describe something as intangible as that, but it's the difference between being I am and we are, right? We are a collective consciousness and collective soul, a group, but I think that ego is something that holds to ourselves and what our self-image is in essence.
Cool. That's good. Becky?
To me, ego would be the self-want and the judgment that we think is natural. There is really no need for it, so it just kind of hinders our experience.
All right, so I'll add just my couple thoughts. What I think, based on what some of the stuff came up there, like ego is a part of ourself that sort of tells the story based on preconceived expectations. It is like a part of ourself that almost like wants to hold on to a moment. It wants to like remain. It wants to identify itself with like what has already happened, and it will work to maintain that. So ego in itself could be a potential barrier that is preventing us from changing ourselves. If we are so stuck up in our self-image, then we may not be allowed to, it's kind of like this quote where it's like, by letting go of who we think we are, we allow ourselves to become who we really are, kind of thing. And the ego may be that part that is telling, even just as, as an example, kids grow up, they say like, Billy is Billy, Joe is Joe, Billy's lunch is Billy, and Joe's lunch is Joe's. And like we have these possessions that we associate with our characters, with our stories. But then getting outside of the ego, getting outside of the illusion that the ego is telling us is, again, going back to ultimately this story of unity, when you realize that, like, we chose to be who we are, yet evidently we are, like, much more than just that character we are playing. We are the entire story itself. So yeah, like, in that sense, the ego is a tool like anything else, and it is a tool that we can also use to attach to an intention that we have in the future. If we have something that we are determined about, our ego will say, like I myself have come here to do this. This is part of my role. This is part of, like, who I've chosen to be. And that ego can actually drive us. It can actually add, like, determination to say, like, I am going to accomplish this sort of thing. So the ego, historically, it has been like this survival thing. It has, like, kept us alive out in the jungles when we were being chased by predators and stuff. So it is something that still has a purpose in today's day and age, because it allows us to align with our roles. It allows us to align with the story that we are creating ourselves. But the idea is to be able to understand that it is a mechanism in creating the story. It is not the story itself. So by understanding what the ego is within our life, it allows us to observe it. And I think that's an important part, is consciously observing, becoming more aware of the ego within ourselves, and being able to say, like, is that thought really within my highest interest, within the higher interest of the self, or is that just my ego? Like, do I really want to eat that chocolate bar, or is that just my impulse to tell me I want to eat it, when in actuality, like, I probably don't, because there's no nutritional value and stuff like that. So I mean, it's kind of like just a small impulse sort of thing. So again, ego is definitely about going outside of the self, but at the same time, it's exploring inwards so that you can explore outwards at the same time. It's definitely a fundamental part to this whole shift in consciousness that we are all going through, is being able to understand the multifaceted aspect of ourselves, of who we are. So the ego is just, like, one part of who we are. So yeah, but that's what I would say. So again, just reminding people, especially if you're thinking about starting up a paradigm shift community, or if you already got one, to use the format that we're doing with this videos and the one-shot take, to be able to replicate similar videos where you are with your community, and then being able to share them through the website, tuning into the radio show and all that awesome jazz, and starting up a paradigm shift community, and sync up and add me on Facebook and get some buttons. So yeah. All right, so we'll wrap it up there. So say farewell to internets for now, Paradigm Shift London. So bye internets, bye internets, bye internets. Yeah, keep it shifty. Peace. All right. Okay, meditation time. Let's do it.